And like I said, Wes talks about this on the Allegorithmic channel, but I don't want him to have all the fun. And there's some really cool stuff in this new version of Painter. So let's talk about those. I'm going to kill this layer up here. Let's hit that little minus sign there, and we'll go back to the head, and we'll hit solo, and we'll just kind of focus in on the head here. So let's say, instead of, if I hold down Shift and the right mouse key, I can actually pass around an environment light. So if I go over here to my viewer settings here and turn my environment opacity back up, and let's go ahead and turn that blur down. So I'm actually passing an environment around this object, and it's lighting the object in the scene using PBR materials and all the math that goes behind that. Now, however, this is all fancy and everything, and in engines that have all this nice stuff and they run quickly because you've got a really nice graphics card or whatever, this is fine. However, if you're running on something like on a mobile, on your phone, that's not quite as computationally powerful, what you can do is bake all of this information here into just the color map. And it's really, really cool how this works. So let's go ahead and turn your environment opacity back down. And instead of being in this mode here where we can kind of see the materials playing off each other, because as we cycle through the channels by hitting C, we have a base color, a height, a roughness, and a metallic all playing together, and an emissive in this case, all playing together to create this really nice material and lighting scenario in here. However, because we could just bake all of this into a one channel, which would be our base color, and throw that on a mobile phone or something like that, all the object would have to have is a base color on a really simple shader, and it'll run a lot faster without having to compute all of these different things. So how we do that is, I'm going to hit C, and I'm going to keep hitting C until I just see my base color. And then on top of everything in my scene here, I'm going to go over here to filters, and I'm going to take the bake lighting filter and just drop that at the very top. And what that's going to do is take all of my metallicity, roughness, and base color information and put it into the base color, so that, you know, if I hold down Shift and right click now, I can't pass that light around, because any lighting you see, how it's kind of like, oh, there's a little bit of lighting on the nose there. It looks like there's a light in the scene, right? Well, there's not. There's baked lighting information on your base color that makes it look like lighting. So let's play around with a little bit of this. So we have bake lighting up here at the top. If we click this little bake lighting area underneath here, you're going to see that we have some options in here. So you can do diffuse only, here's specular only, and then here's, of course, diffuse and specular being baked into your base color here. If I open up the material settings here, you can add some reflectance to your material in here. You can crank up the AO. You can crank up the diffuse cavity, specular AO. So that'll kind of kill your spec in those AO areas. And again, this is just passing in your image inputs here, your ambient occlusion, curvature, and world space normal. That's what you brought in with the model, and it's just passing it right in for you when you dragged it over there. Plugs it in automatically because it's loaded up all in your texture settings here. So specular cavity, you can crank the specular cavity up on your model, and you can kind of smooth out those transitions in there. The edge intensity, you can crank this one up to kind of give it that, you know, you went in and found the edges and kind of rubbed them off. It's a little bit of a stylistic look there. And then you can kind of smooth those edges out as well. You can kind of give them a little bit of blur. So whatever look you're going for, you can go ahead and bake that into your model. Now, after material, you're going to see we have sun and sky options. This is the fake sunlight that's baking in information to your object here. So what it looks like is the sun is coming right at the face here, and then it's kind of shadow back here. So you can actually move this sun, well, you can crank up the sun intensity, make it really bright, and the sun color is actually what's making it a little bit warmer. If you want to make it cooler for some reason, you can actually make it cooler, but let's go ahead and keep it warm. And so you can crank up the sun intensity, you can crank it down. This looks like it's nighttime, so we'll keep cranking that up. And then you can actually change the angle, so you can actually move it to the left and to the right. And once you have that set where you want it, you can do the vertical angle up and down. And again, like all this cool metal kind of roll off you're seeing in the object is not in the material. That is baked into just your color information. How cool is that? Your sky color, you can change that, so you can make it really, you know, this is like Malibu beach sky over here, super bright blue. You can, you know, make that white or red. If you're in the hell layer or something, you can crank that up to red, and then everything, you know, lava or whatever around you is reflecting off that. But we'll go ahead and just keep that blue here. We'll crank it, we'll make that a little less blue than that. What else we got? We got horizon color. You can go here and change. Another cool one is ground color. So if you have, you say he's running along a farm or something, you can make this like a green, and it'll actually, or if he's running along toxic ooze, You can bounce toxic ooze all around. And again, this isn't lighting. This is just color information, but you're able to go in here and change what color it is. If it's just brown, you can kind of just go through and be like, oh, okay, so there's some, I don't know, asphalt, sand, or dirt kind of bouncing up, and it kind of gives it that cool kind of bounce light color that you would get kind of baked in there. And the other cool thing about this is if you're using this method, there's two methods to apply this. There's the baked lighting filter you can drag, and I'm going to show you another one, which is bringing in a baked lighting material. With the filter method, you actually have access to two lights. So these are two extra lights you get to play with and apply to your model. So we've got this one, and it's kind of lit just from this front angle over here. Let's say on this side over here, I'm going to crank the intensity of this light all the way up so we can kind of see where it is. So I'm going to crank it up, and I'm going to start moving it around. So I'm going to move this light over to this direction, and then I'm going to move it down. So we're going to have a light over here lighting on this side. So we've got the sun hitting this side of the face, and then over here we've got this light. Now let's go ahead and give this a little cool color here. So I'm going to give it like a bluish tint over here. So we've got warm sunlight coming in, we've got a bluish light hitting it from this side. So you can change the color and the intensity of that color as well as the intensity of the light overall. So here it is nothing. You can slowly start dialing that light in over here. And of course move that light around. And on this side, let's give it a warm light over here. We'll do light number 2, and again we'll crank that intensity up. We'll move this light around to this side here. Move this light down. This is so cool. And then once we got the light position where we want it, we can go in here and change the color of this light. So we'll make it like a orangey kind of. So here's cool, here's warm, and then sunlight right down the middle of the face. So with all those selected, change your intensity on this side here, and you're good to go. So now again, this is baked lighting. When you go to export this thing, all you need to do is go to File, Export Textures. Do they have a configuration for this? Honestly, I don't really know if they do, but I'm going to hit plus. This is our new export preset. I'm going to double click this and call this Bake Color, and all you'll need is an RGB from your base color. Drag that right in there, RGB channel. So when you go to export your bake color, all it's going to do is export your base color as an RGB map. And basically what you're going to have is if I go over here from 3D to 2D only, your 2D color map will look like this. And again, I can't hold down shift and move this thing around because this is all just baked in information. All this cool reflections and spec on here is baked into your color map information. And I don't know why I can't get over that. That's so cool. So all of this is baked information. And the other cool thing is these are controlling the fake lighting. You can always go back down here and say, you know what, this eye plastic in here, I'm going to select this material. I don't want it to be plastic. I want it to be metal. And in fact, I don't even want it to be yellow. I want it to be red. So I'm going to change the color of my eye. And instead of plastic, I'm going to change it to metallicity. So if I crank that metallicity up, it's going to give it metal eyes. And because I have this bake lighting node at the very top and it's converting everything to just my base color, it's all baking that into my actual object. So that is going all into my base color information. I can export this. It's all baked, but it looks like it's totally lit and it totally has material properties. Now the only downside of this is that it's not dynamically lit, so you're not going to get like cool lighting effects across your surface, but that's the trade-off between having something that's computationally cheap versus something that's realistically rendered but is more computationally expensive. So really, really cool option.